I guess we'll go ahead and get started. I am Zanice Bond. I'm a graduate of the University of Kansas. I am a Jayhawk in Brownsville, Tennessee at the moment. I would like to first start out by thanking the Free Black Women's Library Reading Challenge video series. Today's focus is on a Caribbean writer. And I have selected for us today Edwidge Danticat. You might know her from Crick Crack or from Breath Eyes Memory, but today we are going to be looking at The Farming of Bones. I also want to give a special shout out to the wonderful Emily Taylor Center for Women and Gender Equity. It has done some great work. The center has been a very important part of KU's, a very important part of KU. And I want to say especially hello to my friend Meg Williams, who earned her PhD in American Studies from KU just as I did. So I'm happy to be back among sunflowers and Jayhawks. I am actually in Brownsville, Tennessee, as I mentioned earlier. I'm an associate professor of English at Tuskegee University in Tuskegee, Alabama. And I happen to be in my mother's, what she calls her international room. So you see, the Caribbean is here with us. We have Amola from the Kuna Indians of Panama, San Blas, outside off the coast of Panama. And I have just two. This is a painting from a Haitian artist. My parents' friend, Dr. Jerry Charles, a nephrologist who was in Tennessee, gave them this piece. And you can see the water and the people and the beauty of the land. And another piece that Dr. Charles gave them was this one. And since we're all about free Black women, we're happy to see women in nature and having healthy food. I spent about a week and a half in Haiti a few years ago. I got a chance to celebrate my birthday with some really special boys at the J.A. Claremont Center for Boys. And anyway, here is, this is a bowl, a handmade bowl that's from Haiti. You can see the author's name, address, and phone number on here. The artists, I said author, but okay, yes, good. So, I don't want to, oh, thank you. I don't want to give the book away. So I have selected certain passages that if you get a chance to read the book, and you know that the Emily Taylor Center and the Free Black Women's Library, they are actually giving away books. So if you're chatting, if you're making comments, if you're here, then you are going to be eligible. So I don't want to spoil it for you. I want to start with reading a section. This book was published in 1998. It won the American Book Award in 1999. And I want to start with this historical note that Edwidge Danticat, who was born in Haiti and then came to the United States with her family. She's quite prolific and while she lives in the United States and has lived in the U.S. for a long time, she certainly continues to champion Haiti, and she is always mindful of the beautiful people in Haiti. So page 312 of the edition that I have, she included parsley, a historical note. And this is about 3 paragraphs. At the beginning of October 1937, Dominican dictator Rafael Trujillo ordered the massacre of thousands of Haitians who had migrated to the Dominican Republic, the eastern side of the island it shares with Haiti. The order was mostly carried out by Dominican soldiers, some of whom used machetes to hack their victims in order to make it seem as though the killings had resulted from disputes between Dominican landowners and Haitian peasants. However, many survivors also reported killings involving bullets, fire, hangings, drownings, and even suffocation with parsley. It is not always clear to the survivors who was a soldier and who was not, as all the soldiers were not in uniform. And though it has been said that no civilians participated in the massacre, some survivors have said otherwise. The massacre was carried out over nearly a week, resulting in something between 9,000 and 40,000 deaths. Since many of the bodies were hastily discarded by the military, it is impossible to know exactly how many people died. However, the United States ambassador to the Dominican Republic at the time, Henry R. Norweb, referred to the massacre in a message to President Franklin D. Roosevelt as a systematic campaign of extermination. And I quote, systematic campaign of extermination. Because in some cases it was hard to tell Haitians and Dominicans apart, a type of linguistic test was devised by the killers. Haitians were asked to pronounce perejil, parsley in English, pesi in Haitian Creole. The rolling R does not exist in Haitian Creole, so Haitians would pronounce the word as P-E-W-E-R-I-L. And in Spanish, there's the rolling perejil, which I can't roll my R's, the perejil. And so people were being distinguished based on the way they pronounced the word for parsley. Now, this is a quote from the book, quote, "On this island, you walk too far and people speak a different language," Senora Valencia tells Amabel in the novel. Quote, "Their own words reveal who belongs on what side." And that's the end of the quote. As Rita Dove puts it in her haunting commemorative poem, Parsley, El General has found his word, perejil. Who says it lives. So in my class this semester, my African American Lit class, we read The Farming of Bones by Edwidge Danticat. We also read The Dew Breaker, and we read, among other things, but in our Haiti Dominican Republic section, we also read Rita Dove's poem Parsley, and that's available online. So I want to start out with the opening scene. Now, this book, we understand, is about, well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to do just the blurb, which is a paragraph from the back. And this will give you a sense of what is happening without me actually giving away too much. It is 1937, and Amabel Desir, a young Haitian woman living in the Dominican Republic, has built herself a life as the servant and companion of the wife of a wealthy colonel. She and Sebastian, a cane worker, are deeply in love and plan to marry. But Amabel's world collapses when a wave of genocidal violence driven by Dominican dictator Rafael Trujillo leads to the slaughter of Haitian workers. Amabel and Sebastian are separated, and she desperately flees the tide of violence for a Haiti she barely remembers. Okay, so with that in mind, we open the novel with Sebastian Onyuz and his moment with Amabel. And it starts, and this is about 2 pages. His name is Sebastian Onyuz. He comes most nights to put an end to my nightmare, the one I have all the time, of my parents drowning. While my body is struggling against sleep, fighting itself to awaken, he whispers for me to lie still while I take you back. Back where? I ask, without feeling my lips moving. He says, I will take you back into the cave across the river. I lurch at him and stumble, trying to rise. He levels my balance with the tips of his long but curled fingers, each of them alive on its own as they crawl toward me. I grab his body, my head barely reaching the center of his chest. He is lavishly handsome by the dim light of my castor oil lamp, even though the cane stalks have ripped apart most of the skin on his shiny black face, leaving him with crisscrossed trails of furrowed scars. His arms are as wide as one of my bare thighs. They are steel, hardened by 4 years of sugarcane harvests. Look at you, he says, taking my face into one of his spacious, bowl-shaped hands, where the palms have lost their lifelines to the machetes that cut the cane. You are glowing like a Christmas lantern, even with this skin. This is the color of driftwood ashes in the rain. Do not say those things to me, I mumble, the shadows of sleep fighting me still. This type of talk makes me feel naked. He runs his hand up and down my back. His rough, calloused palms nip and chafe my skin, while the string of yellow coffee beans on his bracelet rolls over and caresses the tender places along my spine. Take off your nightdress, he suggests, and be naked for true. When you are uncovered, you will know that you are fully awake, and I can simply look at you and be happy. Then he slips across to the other side of the room and watches every movement of flesh as I shed my clothes. He is in a corner, away from the lamp, a shadowed place where he sees me better than I see him. It is good for you to learn and trust that I am near you even when you can't place the balls of your eyes on me, he says. This makes me laugh and laugh out loud, too loud for the middle of the night. Now I am fully disrobed and fully awake. I stumble quickly into his arms with my nightdress at my ankles. Thin as he says I am afraid to fold in two and disappear. I'm afraid to be shy, distant, and cold. I'm afraid I cease to exist when he's not there. I'm like one of those sea stones that sucks its colors inside and loses its translucence once it's taken out into the sun, out of the froth of the waves. When he's not there, I'm afraid I know no one and no one knows me. Your clothes cover more than your skin, he says. You become this uniform they make you wear. Now you are only you, just the flesh. It's either be in a nightmare or be nowhere at all, or otherwise simply float inside these remembrances, grieving for who I was and even more for who I've become. But all this when he's not there. Look at your perfect little face, he says, your perfect little shape, your perfect little body. A woman child with deep black skin, all the shades of black in you. What we see and what we don't see, the good and the bad. He touches me like one brush of a single feather, perhaps fearing too that I might vanish. Everything in your face is as it should be, he says. Your nose where it should be. Oh, it would have been sad, I say, if my nose had been placed at the bottom of my feet. This time, he is the one who laughs. Up close, his laughter crumbles his face. His shoulders rise and fall in an uneven rhythm. I'm never sure whether he is only laughing or also crying at the same time, even though I have never seen him cry. I fall back asleep, draped over him. In the morning, before the first lemongrass scented ray of sunlight, he is gone. But I can still feel his presence there, in the small square of my room. I can smell his sweat, which is as thick as sugarcane juice when he's worked too much. I can still feel his lips, the eggplant violet gums that taste of greasy goat milk, boiled to candied sweetness with mustard-colored potatoes. I feel my cheeks rising to his dense as toenails' fingernails. The hollow beneath my cheekbones where the bracelet nicked me and left a perfectly crescent moon-shaped drop of dried blood. I feel the wet lines in my back where his tongue gently traced the life-giving veins to the chine, the faint handprints on my waist where he held on too tight. Perhaps during some moment when he felt me slipping, and I can still count his breaths and how sometimes they raced much faster than the beating of his heart. When I was a child, I used to spend hours playing with my shadow. Sometimes my father warned could give me nightmares. Nightmares like seeing voices twirl in a hurricane of rainbow colors and hearing the odd shapes of things rise up and speak to define themselves. Playing with my shadow made me, an only child, feel less alone. Whenever I had playmates, they were never quite real or present for me. I considered them only replacements for my shadow. There were many shadows, too, in the life I had beyond childhood. At times, Sebastian guarded me from the shadows. At other times, he was one of them. So this is the first chapter in the beginning that introduces the reader to our narrator, our main character, and her love, Sebastian. Now, we know this novel covers a very difficult and painful and traumatic time in the lives of Haitians. In this particular young woman, Haitian woman, who has her parents drowned. She is living in the Dominican Republic, which is not her home. And then she is a part of a family, a relatively loving or caring family. The husband is a part of Trujillo's entourage, and in fact, his wife ends up having twins, and one of the boys, one is a girl and one is a boy, and the little boy is named after Rafael Trujillo. Okay, so they called him Rafi. one of the twins dies, and everyone is really, really sad. This next scene is in the Dominican Republic. It's in the home of Senora Valencia. As I said, she has lost a child, one of her twins, and Congo. We meet Congo. He has also lost a child. Now, I do not want to give it away. I don't want to tell you how it happened or what the connection is between these two people who are different nationalities, different class brackets, okay? Congo is a worker, a Haitian worker, and Valencia is in her home in the Dominican Republic, and she is more of an aristocratic or quote upper class, okay? So Amabel, the young woman who opens us up, who is in love with Sebastian, is talking to Valencia. Amabel, you know some of the Cane people? Yes, Senora. Go and ask them, the ones who just walked by, to come and have un cafecito with us. All of them? As many as will come. I was breathless when I reached the almond tree road. A few ripe almonds had fallen off the branches. The seeds were cracked open, half buried in the soil. The broken fruits oozed a ruddy juice, which made it seem as though the ground was bleeding. What's chasing you? Sebastian asked. The mistress of the house wants all of you to come in for un cafecito with her, I said. Your mistress? Sebastian asked. Senora Valencia. Congo raised his hand over his eyes and looked up at the house. It is not a place where we want to go, Sebastian shouted into the hollow of Congo's ear. Word of Senora Valencia's invitation passed from mouth to mouth in the group. Shoulders were shrugged, eyebrows were raised, burlap sacks and straw hats were removed from heads for a better look at the house. Discussions began and ended in the same breath. What did she want with them anyway? Maybe they were all going to be poisoned. Many had heard rumors of groups of Haitians being killed in the night because they could not manage to trill their R, roll the R, and utter a throaty J to ask for parsley, to say perejil. Rumors don't start for nothing, someone insisted. A woman began telling stories that she'd heard. A week before, a pantry maid who had worked in the house of a colonel for 30 years was stabbed by him at the dinner table. 2 brothers were dragged from a cane field and macheted to death by field guards. Someone there had supposedly witnessed the event with his own eyes. It was said that Generalissimo, so Trujillo, along with the border commission, had given orders to have Haitians killed. Poor Dominican peasants had been asked to catch Haitians and bring them to the soldiers. Why not the rich ones too? Tell me again your name. Tell me again the name of your mistress, Congo said. Senora Valencia, I said. Her son is being buried this morning, so she may not be fully well. I tapped my temples to explain any rifts in the Senora's reasoning. Congo dug his broom handle into the red dirt and started towards the house. Most of the cane workers continued on to the fields, but some, at least 20 or so, were curious enough to follow us up the hill. They crowded onto the porch and to the garden, any place where there was room to either lean or sit down. Senora Valencia kept Rosalinda, that's the little twin daughter who survived. Senora Valencia kept Rosalinda inside while Juana and I followed her orders. We poured coffee into her best red orchid pattern tea set and passed the first cups to Congo, who handed them to the youngest of the group. Among the children was the boy I had given the goat bones to the night before. I poured him a full cup and then moved on to the others. Juana had rationed carefully, controlling the supply so everyone who wanted to could have at least a sip. "We'll have the day's wages taken away if we don't go soon," Sebastian said. He did not want to participate in the Senora's fiesta. As Juana was handing out the last cups of the coffee her sisters had sent her, Congo moved away from the others and walked boldly into the parlor where the Senora was sitting with her daughter. Congo leaned over to peek at Rosalinda's bronze face. He held out his hand as if to touch it. Senora Valencia reached up and blocked Congo's hardened old fingers. Congo grabbed Senora Valencia's extended hand and kissed the tip of her fingernails. Senora Valencia's face reddened as though this was the first time she'd ever been touched so intimately by a stranger. "My heart is saddened for the death of your other child," Congo said in his best Spanish. He released her hand so that she could better grasp her daughter. "When he died, my son, the ground sank a few folds beneath my feet. I asked myself, how can he die so young? Did the stars visit upon him to teach me that a lifetime can be vast as 100 years or sudden as a few breaths? Enjoy this one you have left. It all passes so fast in the time it takes to draw a breath." Senora Valencia watched as Congo walked out. I followed him with my eyes as he strolled down the hill. He laid his hand on Sebastian's shoulder as if to summon the strength for one more step. After everyone was gone, Senora Valencia went back to her bed and lay silently awake, watching her daughter sleep at her side. It seemed that they might have regretted exposing herself to the damp morning air and her daughter to outside forces that Congo and the others might have brought with them. But her son's death had made her heedless and rash. When her husband returned, before he could tell her anything about the burial, she told him what she had done for the cane workers. He did not scold her, but once he discovered that she had used their imported orchid patterned tea set, he took the set out to the yard and, launching them against the cement walls of the house latrines, he shattered the cups and saucers one by one. So, as I mentioned before, her husband is a part of he's a follower, a soldier, and he supports Rafael Trujillo. So, interestingly, when the twins were born, they noticed the different colors. The daughter was a darker color, and the son was a lighter color. And they had some concerns about that, which of course is just a microcosm of what's going on on the island of Hispaniola. So, Haiti is on the western part of the island, and Dominican Republic is on the eastern part. So Hispaniola is the island that they share, but Haiti is often marketed as Black African, which of course, why wouldn't we want to be proud of that with the Haitian Revolution that has just surpassed all of our just visions when we think about enslaved people, and an uprising that turned into a revolution that became an example for other colonies, other enslaved people to actually follow, emulate, pay homage to. So Haiti's rich heritage and history continues to be a part of literature. If you think about Ntozake Shange, who wrote For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough, there's a section, one of the choreo poems, where the young girl meets Toussaint Jones, and she has been going to the big people's, the grown folks library, and she's learned about Toussaint Louverture, and she talks about him. Well, you're not Toussaint, the Toussaint I know. And he goes, I'm Toussaint Jones. So he was also proud of and growing because of his connection to Toussaint Louverture. So a lot of really rich history. The Dominican Republic, marketed probably more for tourism efforts, as Spanish speaking, and just such a charming spot, which actually Haiti was known as the jewel of the Caribbean, growing the sugar cane and it was just helped to make France lots of money at the expense of the lives of Haitian people, of course. I want to take another little section. Let's see, how's my time here? Okay. So we talk about dreams, nightmares, images, being able to fulfill dreams. Not only dreams when we're sleeping, but what kind of life are we trying to carve out here? And so you do know, just from the blurb, that, Amabel did make it to Haiti. You don't know if Sebastian went with her or not. You don't know if they got married, lived happily ever after. You don't know any of that, and I'm not going to tell you. But she does make it to a friend's house. And the friend's mother is in Haiti, and she had married the love of her life, her son's father, her husband, and Rapadou. All right. So when I say Man Rapadou, this is the older woman that Amabel is talking to, and she says. And this is Man Rapadou speaking. When I was a girl, she said, searching her coarse, bent fingers for the contour of her own face, now buried under many layers of crow's feet and wrinkles. My skin was so dry that sometimes it peeled off in scabs, pink with blood, like fish scales. I was very clumsy because my feet were weak, but I knew how to slip into a fall, how to not fight the force of the earth pulling me down. When I became a young woman, somehow my feet got stronger, and I never thought about falling again until now. I tried to gather her into my arms, which was impossible to do given the breadth of her figure, so I patted the flesh on her back, between her neck and her waist, as if burping a grown child. It's a hard thing to know that life will go on one day without you, she said. I too felt and lived my own body's sadness more and more every day. The old and new sorrows were suddenly inconsolable, and I knew that the brief moments of joy would not last forever. When I saw a beautiful young man, I tried to pair him up with my younger self. I dreamed of the life without pain that he might have brought me, the tidy parlor and spotless furnishings that our young children would not be allowed to touch, except to dust off on Saturdays. Old age is not meant to be survived alone, Man Rapadu said, her voice trailing with her own hidden thoughts. Death should come gently, slowly, like a man's hand approaching your body. There can be joy and impatience if there is time to find the joy. How long has it been, my Rapadu, since a man touched your big belly? I asked to make her laugh. Not as long as since one has touched yours, she said, measuring the length of her own smile with the edge of her fingertips. From time to time, life takes you by surprise. You sit in your laku eating mangoes. You let the mango seeds fall where they may, and one day you wake up and there's a mango tree in your yard. I knew she meant this as a compliment to me, a kind word for me suddenly arriving at her house some years before. I have not told this to anyone, she said, her hands patting her too wide hips. But I believe there are many who suspect, even my son. The Yankees had poisoned Eve's father. The Yankees had poisoned Eve's father's mind when he was in their prison. He was going to spy on other Yankees. He was going to spy on others for Yankee money after he left their jail. Many people who were against the Yankees being here were going to die because of his betrayal. And so I cooked his favorite foods for him and filled them with flour, fine glass, and rat poison. I poisoned him. Maybe this is why I'm falling in all my dreams. I'm going to him soon, and I'm afraid. What will I say to him in the life after? Love is only pleasure. Honor is duty. I cannot simply say this thing that I told myself then. It is not enough now. I should not tell you this about me. You might do the same to my son. But then you do not love him like I did Eve's father. But greater than my love for this man was the love for my country. I could not let him trade us all, sell us to the Yankees. I often heard that silence is holy, and still I'm not holy, she said, wiping a tear from the side of her face. I believed then that fortune would favor the brave. How young I was. There were cures for everything except death. I wish the sun had set on my days when I was still a young, happy woman whose man was by her side with joy in his eyes and honor in his heart. So I've tried to share several different scenes that were really important to the book, and then also to me as I read it. My students were really intrigued with the fact, this question of love and loving her husband so much that she killed him because she loved her nation more, and she could not sacrifice the nation, the larger community for just for her personal happiness. And then she wasn't going to be really happy. Her happiness was going to be a little bit tainted. I'm going to close out now, not with a passage from the book, but with an afterword that Edwidge Danticat included in this more recent edition of the Farming of Bones. And often people wonder what, and my students and I talk about this in terms of what does the literature do for us, to us, beyond being in a classroom, taking a test, writing in, sorry. And we've seen with works, for example, Natasha Trethewey and Native Guard, and there are probably many that we could make a list of, what happens when literature addresses something in history. What do we move beyond this retelling of a story? How are we changed, and how are we able to change others around us? So this is the afterword, and I'm only reading just a couple of paragraphs here by Edwidge Danticat, and it's titled, Nature Has No Memory. I remember hearing about the 1937 massacre of Haitian cane workers in the Dominican Republic when I was a girl in Haiti. Nothing in great detail, but a phrase here and there from one of my relatives. And she says it in Haitian Creole, and the translation, do you think he was killed like the others were in 1937? In 1994, I traveled to the northern Haitian-Dominican border, hoping, if nothing else, to place my hand in the Massacre River, which had gotten its name not from the 1937 massacre, but from a centuries-old massacre where Spanish and French colonists had butchered one another over how to split the island of Hispaniola, the island which Haiti and the Dominican Republic now share. Sitting by the side of the river and chatting with the children bathing in it, and the men watching their animals drink in it, and the women washing their clothes in it, I wrote in my notebook, quote, nature has no memory. I was expecting to see a river full of blood, but what I saw instead were people living, even with a painful past trailing them like blood. This did not mean, though, that they had forgotten. Many had inherited their parents' and grandparents' mythic stories of the screams that filled the nights for days, of the river risen to new heights on blood alone. On October 2012, so if we go from 1994, so 1937, 1994 is when she returned, and then by 2012, on the 75th anniversary of the massacre, a group of Haitian and Dominican writers, artists, and activists from the group Border of Lights gathered at the Haitian-Dominican border for the first ever bi-national commemoration and remembrance of the massacre. They held teach-ins and read poems, cleaned parks and planted trees, and floated candles and lanterns down a river that has seen so much darkness. This book, though, is not just a book about mourning. It is also about life, about love, and the joys and pains of both. It is about starting over, or trying to, and ultimately, I hope, about coming to terms with history and our place in it. Nature may have no memory, and some might dispute this, but we do. And it is thanks to the individual and collective memories of others that this book was written at all. Okay. So, I thank you for joining us today. Again, much love and gratitude to the Free Black Women's Library and their wonderful reading challenge. We are still a part of the challenge. The challenge will continue. So come back to the Emily Taylor Center and hear some more wonderful lines from Black women talking and thinking about themselves, their place in the world, our place in the world, and how we will be able to grow and live more harmoniously, more peacefully. And I want to thank you again for joining us. Thanks to Megan Williams again, and to everyone associated with this wonderful, wonderful challenge. You all take good care. Thank you. Thanks, Hen. Thanks, Dave. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, Viva Haiti. Thank you. Okay. It's my first live, so I guess I just delete. Okay. Thanks. I'm going off now. Bye. Thank you.